to have with us this evening Phil Gay, who knows an awful lot about bells. And I'd like to ask him now to talk to us more specifically about the Stone project and what is involved.
Good evening, my name is Phil Gay, I'm a bell ringer at Keele, and like Barry, I've not been in this area very long. I've been here 49 years and I'm still in Cumber, as you can probably tell from my accent. Most bells are hung in churches, but they have always had a much wider significance than simply ecclesiastical. In medieval times, churches typically had several bells which each had a particular function and significance. The Sanctus bell, the Angelus bell, the Paschal bell, and people would know from the sound they heard what was being announced. In the 17th century, ringers began to swing bells higher and with more control, and it was realised that ringing several bells together in a controlled way could be satisfying to the ringers and pleasing to listen to. By the end of the century, many churches had sets of bells, and bell founders were able to supply such sets reasonably in tune. Having a set of bells became a matter of pride, not just to the church, but to the community as a whole, and there was sometimes rivalry between neighbouring parishes to see who could have the best ring of bells. As change ringing developed in the 17th and 18th centuries, it became customary for bells to be rung to mark a variety of local and national events, some joyful, some sad. For example, royal events such as coronations, births and birthdays were often occasions for ringing, and still are today. There was a great deal of specially arranged ringing 2 weeks ago for the royal wedding. And the ringers of Stafford still get paid by the civic authorities for early morning ringing on the birthdays of the Queen and the Prince of Wales and for the opening of the court session. In 1777, stone bells would have rung to celebrate the opening of the canal, and it was also common, if the ringers were supplied with enough beer by the successful candidate, to celebrate election victories with them. In 1710, both Eccleshall and Stone, I wonder which was first, bought 6 new bells from the famous Ruddle foundry in Gloucester. These bells were probably taken up the Severn to Bridgnorth and then with some difficulty transported by road. A century later, the whole journey could have been done by boat with much less trouble. These bells were state-of-the-art for their time, as befitting a community which wanted the very best. But technology and ringing advanced. In the late 19th century, Stone went to what was by then the leading bell foundry, Taylor's of Loughborough, for 2 additional bells to complete the octave and widen the horizons and repertoire of the ringers. At that time, and again today, Stone had one of the leading bands of ringers in the area. Unfortunately, these 2 new bells were cast just before the breakthrough which took Taylor's into the modern era, and they're of poor quality, with no possibility of improving them by tuning. From the ringer's point of view, the attractiveness of a ring of bells depends on 2 things: the quality of the bells and how well they are hung, which affects the ease of ringing and therefore the quality of the performance. Good ringing requires precise placing of each bell in the sequence, and if the behaviour of the bell when swinging is unpredictable and hard to control, this is impossible to achieve. What we now have at Stone is a ring of 8 bells, cast at 2 different times by 2 different founders before modern tuning allowed the best musical result. And it's not just a matter of retuning, because bells have to be the right shape to be capable of being well tuned. These bells are hung in an old timber frame which is less rigid than it should be and is higher in the tower than the ideal position. Furthermore, the fittings of the bells, headstocks, wheels, etc., are of antiquated design and materials, again contributing to difficulty of achieving good ringing. The local ringers have done a great deal of maintenance and remedial work over the last 30 years, but it is clear that the installation has now come to the end of its useful life. After much consideration of alternatives, it has been decided to equip the church and town of Stone with a modern ring of bells, appropriate not just to the present time, but to the next 3 centuries, thus emulating the ambition and forethought of those who did the same thing in 1710. Much thought has gone into the specification of the new ring of bells. They will be slightly heavier than the present ring, cast to the highest modern musical standards. They will be hung in a rigid metal frame at a lower level in the tower to reduce tower movement and its effect on bell control and the structure. The new ring of bells will not just enable a higher quality of performance now. It will be much easier to teach the next generation of ringers, and thereby ensure that Stone will continue to hear high-quality ringing in the future. The initial plan is to install 8 bells, but the frame has been designed to facilitate the installation of 2 additional bells when funding allows. 2 additional bells would not only enhance performance options, but also provide much more flexible teaching facilities, particularly for young people. Over the years, it has been common for bells to be cast to commemorate national and local events and as memorials, both national and local. Having a completely new set of bells provides a splendid opportunity for that to be done in this project, and we hope that individuals and groups will offer to sponsor individual bells in this way, which will of course be recorded for posterity by a suitable inscription on the bell. It will also be possible to sponsor smaller components of the installation. This is an ambitious project which will come to fruition only if it is supported by the whole community. We have already had an indication of intent from the bell ringing community in North Staffordshire, who typically contribute 10% of the cost of projects such as this, and we are now throwing the project open to the wider community to enable it to contribute to a ring of bells which Stone can be proud of for the next 300 years.